And welcome back to Crypto Maniac. Thank you so much for the support over the last little while. I just made a video on Bitcoin Gold a couple of videos ago and thought that I would do a bit of a follow-up. So the idea right here is that we're going to be talking about, you've got some Bitcoin Gold, you probably also just got some Bitcoin Diamond. So we're going to talk a little bit about what to do with those exactly. A lot of people have just been wanting to sell off as soon as they get it. Which may or may not be the way to go. So we'll take a deep dive into that. Also, just before things get too far in that direction, Ledger is also having a sale right now. So if you're interested in a hardware wallet like this one, then there's a referral link in the description below. This I find to be a really great tool, particularly because some guy just got ripped off $100,000 worth of Bitcoin. So there's never been a better time than right now to secure your funds. And if you're kind of out there waving them around and not using your tools correctly, then they're gonna get stolen from you. And so this is a really good way to go. Anyway, enough on that. Let's take a look at what's happening here. So first of all, just to state the obvious, yes, Ethereum is finally taking off. Now, we've talked in depth about Ethereum and all the good things that it's going for it, but Mike Novogratz, if it's good enough for him to start telling us about all the good things that are coming down the line, it is definitely good enough for me. And so if he's excited, I'm excited. And so don't worry, I'm not about to do a happy dance or anything like that. Yeah, okay, I couldn't help it. Anyway. Good to see that train finally take off, and here's hoping that it's gonna continue. There are a lot of things to look forward to as the second part of the hard fork comes through here, so fingers crossed. So as I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of talk about a lot of people not having a lot of faith in Bitcoin Gold, and so a lot of people just couldn't wait to get their Bitcoin Gold onto an exchange to just sell it off. Now, although that might sound like a great idea because, hey, free money, there might be a couple of extra things to consider. Now, this is not necessarily financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. You're responsible, of course, for your own decisions, just like I am. That said, there might be a little bit of a better strategy. Now, if you were into the ICO game, for example, this might be also applicable for you. Now, ICOs are getting a little bit trickier right now as they're not making the 5, 10, 20 times gains that they were perhaps over the summertime and before. But if you were lucky enough to catch some of those, then a good strategy in my mind is take something like EOS, for example. So I had a really good run of EOS. I had invested really early, and it went over approximately 4 times. So I saw it, I think we got tokens around the $1 mark or something like that. It went to $4, maybe even close to $5. Now I can't recall exactly, but I did not cash out my tokens at that point. But when it started to dip to about $3 and something, I sold about 2/3 of my coins, my tokens, sorry. And what that did for me was that I still made a profit. I put my original dough back into my pocket, or more specifically, probably into Ethereum or Bitcoin. And then I'm just prepared to let the other third just sit there because those become then effectively free tokens. So I've already got my initial investment back, I've pocketed a profit, and I've just got some free tokens. So if it goes to 0, it really doesn't matter. So when it went to like 50 cents, I wasn't all that bothered about it because they're not costing me anything. But should it actually really take off, now it is a direct competitor to Ethereum coming up, it might be something really great. And so what I would say is if we look to something like Bitcoin Cash, now it went down, down, down. But in reality, it's been all over the place. And so if you were still holding your Bitcoin Cash, obviously you're in a much better position right now. That said, we've talked also about some of the ideology behind Bitcoin Cash, and not so sure I love the project and the way it's going, just because there does appear to be a lot of centralization, and that in my mind is kind of not what Bitcoin is really all about. So for those saying that that is the real Bitcoin, maybe, we'll see. But it just looks, smells, and tastes a little bit funny in my mind. But we've done a few videos on that, so I'll just put that topic off to the side for now. But in the meantime, as pertains to Bitcoin Gold has had a pretty decent run. Now, there's been a lot of crying out there to say that Bitcoin Gold just doesn't seem all that organized. And admittedly, it looked a little bit suspect at the beginning, and perhaps they're just riding on Bitcoin branding at the moment. So right now, nice to see that we're well over $250 billion in market cap overall. But as we take a look here through the overall week, now a lot of people again this week were in a huge hurry to offload their Bitcoin Gold. But as we scroll all the way here down to 1,000 something, we can see that Bitcoin Gold has reached a price of just under 400 bucks. So all things considered, not too bad. Now, when it was finally actually released and we had a little peek into the blockchain, it was sitting around $150. So if we look, now we're not exactly sure what the circulating supply is according to CoinMarketCap, but we can see that there's been a significant amount of volume in the last 24 hours, adding up to $500 million. So not too bad, all things considered. Now in the last 24 hours, it's been up 37% over the last hour, down 0.73%. But overall on the week, if you cashed out early, you would have shortchanged yourself 157% gains. Now, that is nothing to sneeze at, and back to my point about EOS and other strategies, is that one thing that you might consider is maybe even selling half of your portion of Bitcoin Gold, maybe a different percentage, whatever it is that looks good for you. And again, it's the same strategy, right? Because it's free money, you can take that and put it in your pocket, or you can load up on BTC or Ethereum or some other coin that you wish, and then just sort of let the other ones go and see. Could be that it goes to zero because it is not a huge project. That said, again, relative to where it is here in the thousands on CoinMarketCap, it might actually add up to something with $500 million traded over the last 24 hours. So that's something to consider. Now, the counter argument to that, of course, is the website is looking better, I have to say, but it's still not exactly totally where we would love to see this as far as organization. Now, they've put together a couple of charts and things like that. The whole idea behind this is that it's supposed to decentralize mining to some degree. So where others are using the ASIC chip, which is very expensive, and so for the huge miners, on the Bitcoin Cash side and on the Bitcoin Core side, they're able to run an awful lot of machines to do their mining. And so that kind of makes it difficult for the small guys to actually take part in mining. Bitcoin Gold, on the other hand, uses GPU mining and an equihash algorithm to try to make that a little bit more accessible, like Zcash, for example. Now, if you want to take a look at their roadmap, I was very interested just to see where they're supposed to be going into the future, but I have to say, under this section, I was a little bit disappointed because there's a lot of blah, blah, blah that happens all the way until page 7 here somewhere. It really just details what's already on the website. Okay, and landing on page 7, there is a timeline which has 2 steps on it. First step, take a snapshot of the blockchain. And secondly, activate the BTG blockchain. Great, okay, check and check, that's done. And then that's pretty much it. So then there's a financial strategy as far as the pre-mine, how much is locked up and that sort of thing, distribution. And then in fairness, once we go a few pages further, we see that there is a section on future development. Now, I was excited to see this briefly until I actually took a look through it. And it looks like kind of more of the same disappointment in terms of their future development. Now, there are a few things listed here, and some of these are sort of flavors of the week, I would say. So blowing through these, Lightning Network, obviously we're all excited to see that because it's going to make transactions wickedly fast and very cheap, which is great. Side chains, cross-chain atomic swaps is going to be super exciting. And we've already seen a couple of those actually happen across Decred and Litecoin, I think. But anyway, that's also going to make things a little more decentralized. And then on that note, decentralized exchanges. Now, this just seems to be hip terminology that we're all getting excited about right now, but there's just nothing concrete there. So there's no real meat to grab onto. And I feel like they're just saying what it is that we want to hear. And there's no real plan in place here. That said, there is a lot to be said for how much it's gone up. I don't know how much that is just because Bitcoin Gold is actually a really great coin and a really great blockchain, or what the situation is there. But again, my plan is just to kind of hang on for a little bit and sort of see where it goes. Now, I tweeted, whatever, that Bitcoin Diamond was around $60. Now, this was just a short time ago, I guess just a couple of hours ago, which in the meantime has already jumped up to close to $75. So for whatever that's worth, let's take a look and see what's going on over here. So over on the Bitcoin Diamond page, they've finally completed the fork, and just looking, there's a little bit more information here, which kind of looks like the same graphic that we saw on the Bitcoin Gold side. Now, important here is that there is a limited supply of 210 million coins as opposed to the 21 million Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin whatever. So on that note, that might look a little bit strange, and I initially thought, well, that's really going to ensure that the price never really climbs up above whatever. But as it turns out, if you're holding your Bitcoin off of an exchange somewhere, now some exchanges will actually credit you, and we'll talk about that in a second, but if you've got something on like a ledger, for example, then you'll be credited 10 to 1 Bitcoin Diamond to Bitcoin. So that's something at least, and I think that probably explains why there is going to be that limit of 210 million. Now, scrolling along down below here, see a list of exchanges. Now, I really struggle to actually identify any of these as really big ones, with the exception perhaps of Huobi, which also I feel like got hacked recently. But all of that aside, it doesn't look like there's some really major exchanges here. And then we get to the wallets section, and again, no major wallets here that I've actually heard of before. And interestingly, this just popped up a little while ago as well, where someone was asking whether Ledger would be supporting Bitcoin Diamond. And interesting to see that the Ledger folks actually chimed in to issue this statement to say that, well, maybe, we'll see if it's actually a real thing or not. That said, I do feel for all of these developers that have to react to all of these forks, and as everyone is saying, it is probably the year of the fork. 2018 is probably not going to be any different, as a lot of people are seeing a lot of free money here. Now, one of the exchanges that is not listed on the site is Binance. Now, Binance has become a very popular site and I think is growing a lot, and as it turns out, there's some really, really good tools on there. But Binance has also issued a statement to say that you are being credited right now. In fact, I went over there already to my account to go and check it out. If you're new to Binance, I would definitely recommend it. The tools in there work really well. Now, I'm a long-time user of Kraken and a whole bunch of other exchanges, but Kraken has definitely been slowing down over the last little while, and it's really getting difficult to make a trade. And when those times get critical, you have to depend on the exchange that it's actually going to go through. Otherwise, you could be out a lot of money potentially. So I've had pretty good success with Binance so far, and there are tons of coins on there. It sort of looks and feels like a better version of Bittrex, in fact. Anyway, if you're interested in a new account, there's a reference link in the description below. Now, if you want to start trading, there are Bitcoin and Ethereum pairs as well to be had. So check out Binance for a little bit more information on that. So what's going to happen with Bitcoin Diamond? I guess that remains to be seen, but again, you have the option to just go ahead and sell the farm if you wish, or to hang on to them, depending on what your strategy is. And so that's all I've got for you today. Thanks so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. What's going to happen to Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Diamond, Bitcoin Gold, there's Bitcoin Plus, there's Bitcoin Silver, and on and on and on. Are these projects worth anything to you? Are you planning on just selling the farm as soon as you can? Are you going to hang on to everything? Or are you going to actually pare down and sell off a percentage? Like I may not, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, thanks for following along. Please do like, subscribe, and share just to keep the conversation going. And there's some donation links in the bottom here in the description below, as well as a few other things to help you get started. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.